Kevin lived in a small house in rural Pennsylvania. His backyard wasn't very big, but it backed directly into a dense patch of woods. The only thing separating his yard from the forest was an old wooden fence and a small storage shed in the far corner. Most nights were completely quiet. On a cold night in late October, Kevin woke up suddenly, around 1:30 a.m. At first he didn't know why. Then he heard it. Slow footsteps moving across the grass in his backyard. Kevin sat up in bed and looked toward his window. His blinds were closed, but the porch light outside created a faint glow around the edges. He checked his phone. 1:34 a.m. The footsteps continued. They sounded too slow and heavy to be an animal. Kevin quietly got out of bed and walked to the window. He lifted the blinds just enough to see outside. The backyard looked empty. The porch light illuminated most of the grass, and the small shed sat quietly near the fence. Nothing moved. Kevin stared for a few seconds before lowering the blinds again. He was about to return to bed when he heard something else. A scraping sound, like someone dragging their hand along the wooden fence. The sound moved slowly across the yard. Then it stopped, right behind the shed. Kevin felt his stomach drop. He went back to the window and lifted the blinds again. The yard still looked empty, but suddenly the motion light near the shed turned on. Kevin froze. The bright light revealed something that made his heart start pounding. 2 legs, a pair of legs sticking out from behind the shed. Someone was standing there. Kevin couldn't see the person's upper body, just their legs partially visible beside the corner of the shed. They weren't moving. They were just standing there. Kevin backed away from the window and grabbed his phone. His hands were shaking as he dialed 911. While the phone rang, he looked back at the window. The legs were gone. The shed was empty again. Police arrived about 10 minutes later and searched the yard and woods behind Kevin's house. They didn't find anyone, but one officer noticed something near the shed. Footprints, deep footprints in the wet soil. They started near the woods and moved across the yard. The officer followed them with his flashlight. They led directly to Kevin's bedroom window. Kevin felt his chest tighten, but then the officer said something strange. He said the footprints didn't stop at the window. They circled the side of the house. Kevin and the officer walked around the house following the prints. They eventually stopped at the back door, right on the wooden porch. The officer looked at Kevin and asked, "Did you come outside tonight?" Kevin shook his head. Then the officer pointed at the door handle. There were muddy fingerprints all over it, and the worst part was, Kevin realized he had forgotten to lock the door before going to bed.